Hey everybody, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Teri Hunter. I'm an angel therapy practitioner, intuitive astrologer, Reiki master, and empowerment coach. And I'm here today on the new moon in Libra. This is a very, very powerful day, not just for the new moon, which ushers in new energies, opportunities to plant seeds for new things, but the planet Pluto is going direct today. And Pluto has been a major player over the last few years as it represents death and rebirth. And when I say death, I don't mean physical death as much as I mean the transformation, AKA the caterpillar to the butterfly, the nymph to the dragonfly, and these transformations that take an extreme amount of fortitude in order to really thrive on the backside, because Pluto moving forward in Capricorn is rewriting the structures of our lives. And Libra, the new moon, to me is, you can talk about marriage and partnerships, but today I'm going to focus in on the aspects of creating harmony, peace, a sense of diplomacy in how we engage with one another, because Pluto is going to make people angry and want to behave in a violent way. And this is not everybody, but when frustrations start to crescendo, the natural reaction will be to strike out. And I think this is an opportunity to take conscious action and to be the bearer of truth, but also the bearer of compromise and harmony and diplomacy in one's behavior. So, and I want to offer this too, because this new moon is part of a stellium that's now taking place in Libra. We have Mercury transiting Libra right now. We have Mars transiting Libra right now. And then, of course, with a new moon, we have the sun and the moon right next to each other, called a conjunction. A stellium is 3 or more planets, but a strict astrologer will say 4 planets in one sign or house. And in Libra, this is going to be Mercury representing how we think, what we read about, what we teach others, what we speak of, and how we walk through our communities. It represents short-term travel. Mars represents assertion. Mars is known as the god of war, Aries, god of war. So this is an opportunity to take a deeper conscious action in how I speak my truth, and yet do it in a way so that others can hear it without diminishing that truth. This is what I think the stellium in Libra has to offer. And this is a 6-month influence. We're going to see this, whatever seeds are planted today will bear fruit when we get to the full moon. I believe it'll be in April of 2022. So what I'm going to do today is do an angel reading for each one of the signs. These are rising signs. So this is going to be the sign that was ascending as you were being born. The reason that astrologers do the ascendant and focus on that is because it always represents the first house of self and the perception with which how you walk through the world. The sun can be in one sign, but it can be in different houses, so that the environment will be different. So if you don't know your rising sign, you can go to any one of the free astrology sites and just plug in your birth time, your location, and obviously the date and year, and it will let you know. I am personally a whole sign Western astrologer. That's how I'm going to be basing these. And I'm going to start with Aries, the first sign, and work my way towards Pisces. So this new moon for Aries is happening in your 7th house of partnerships. That's where Libra is. And so this is going to be focused in on the contracts that you have with other people. These aren't just verbal contracts, but written contracts. So it can be partnerships in work as well as intimate partnerships and any long-term committed resource invested dynamics. It also represents the justice system, like policemen and things like that. So what we may see is an ushering in for Aries of how you can be courageous in your assertion while being aware of how that assertion is landing on another, so that you can foster an open dialogue, is the way I want to put it. It's about Aries learning how to be productive in partnership, in cooperation, and not losing your sense of individuality. Aries very much represents the individual. It's the first sign of the zodiac. It represents springtime when things start to grow. So this is the opportunity for Aries, who has had Pluto. I spoke of Pluto earlier. It's been squaring Aries. So it's really giving you a chance to transform this version of aggression and anger and resentment and all the lower energies of Aries into the higher vibrations of courage, bravery, truth, and being able to assert yourself in a constructive way that makes the other person feel acknowledged as well as yourself. So as this happens in the house of partnership, let's see what Spirit has to say for Aries. I'm going to do one spread with, or a single spread with two different decks, the Angel deck and then the Avalon deck. The first position represents the foundation, foundational aspect where Aries is sitting as we start, or as we focus in on the self. That's what I want to emphasize for Aries. This is giving you an opportunity to look at your own perception and find yourself in a place of diplomacy, in a place of cooperation, not because you've diminished your opinion, but because you've been able to assert yourself in a win-win situation. Okay. And then I'm going to use the Camelot deck, Legends of Avalon, and I'll marry these two decks together in a 4-card spread to see what Spirit has to say. Sorry if I'm a little choppy. Mercury is still a retrograde. All right. So for our Aries, rising moon, sun, and stelliums, we have the first angel is Grace and Antoinette, the angel of compassion. Then we have in the opportunity of the obstacle, Xana, the angel of protection. We have Aurora in the angel's advice. And in the final potential outcome, we have Layla. She represents setting an intention and spending time in meditation and in conversation with Spirit, your guides, your angels, and your own oversoul. Joining Grace and Antoinette is the horse. Joining Xana is the novice. Joining Aurora is the bear. And joining Layla is the butterfly. Oh, isn't that interesting? Excuse me while I take some water. I was thinking this morning about, I've had a situation where someone has approached me in a way that has made me feel a little bit unsettled, I'll say. And it took me a minute. I'm an Aries rising. My initial reaction was to want to defend myself. But I was able to step back from that initial reaction and start to think about what's going on the other side. Could there be something happening in the way the expression and the experience is coming out that really has nothing to do with me? And in that awareness, does that help me move in a direction that is more fostering the energy that I want in the win-win versus a knee-jerk Arian reaction to be assertive or aggressive? Because in the foundational position, Aries is Grace and Antoinette, the angels of compassion, seeing things from another person's point of view. And there's the horse. And I think this is where this new moon is giving you an opportunity to go into the place of compassion so that you can actually communicate more effectively. And I say that because in the final position, and I'll get to the other two, is this opportunity to truly transform. because I don't believe that Aries wants to give up who they are. I believe at your essence that you really like yourself, but there's also these kind of jagged edges that you would like to turn into tools. You don't want to round them off and dumb them down, but you don't want them to be inadvertently cut off things you don't want. So this is an opportunity in the dark of the new moon to see yourself more in from that butterfly position, and then start to truly give life to it. Because in the opportunity or the obstacle is the novice, representing skill without practice, a new beginning, hence the Libra new moon, and the angel of protection, Xana. So Aries is an opportunity to take the concepts of their own ability to be assertive within negotiation, assertive within partnership, assertive within contracts, and in situations with others, and yet at the same time creating a win-win. And doing so, I think the angels are telling you that you're going to start to rewrite your own story. So you'll start to embrace the more Aryan dynamics of yourself, because they become a spiritual warrior versus just some unconscious, soldier, implementing orders. Because Aurora is saying you're flying high right now, which will inspire others. They may initially be a little taken aback by it, but you're going to start to rewrite your story. And that is in that you are a very powerful creator. And in doing so, in taking this broader viewpoint of this Libran new moon dynamic, Libra is the opposite side of the scales of the zodiac. So it's the opposite, where Aries is all about, I want to do it my way. Libra is about cooperating with others. This is not about trying to be Libran. It's about finding the balance between the two. So as, let's say, maybe you give life to listening to someone, even though you know where they're going with their conversation, that creates a situation that the other person feels heard. So then when you come in with your point of view or your input, you're starting to feel that back and forth that then gives new life to a situation that will bear fruit 6 months from now. I don't think it's going to be right now. And I want to offer it this way because also for Aries, there is some very challenging dynamics coming up with this Pluto potentially squaring late-born Aries. So this is really an opportunity to find a deeper truth in your heart as well, because this is a transit that's going to be happening to Aries for the next couple of years. Late-born Aries. Okay. On to our Taurus rising moon, sun, and stelliums. This new moon is happening for you in your 6th house. The 6th house traditionally rules work, health, being enslaved to something, being in service to other things. So we think the idea of Libra being about creating a win-win. So you're not enslaved to something, and yet you're not, how do I want to put it? The Taurus has a way of wanting a certain amount of dependability, wanting to be aware of being able to see the road. And, it's represented by the bull, which in many ways is a beast of burden. So I think about this new moon in Libra opening Taurus up to the idea of creating some sort of win-win, the Libra dynamic, within your 6th house energy. So this could be your work or your health, or how you view your work or your health. Or it could be a dynamic, because Taurus rules food. So there could be the dynamic where you're finding more balance in how you're perceiving pleasure and enjoyment and conscious eating. I bet you we're going there. Let's see what Spirit has to say. Our first angel is Chantal, the angel of romance. The second is Celeste, in the opportunity or the obstacle. The third is Xana. And the final is Teresa. Oops. So Libra being your 6th house, Libra is always going to represent partnership, marriage, contracts. It's ruled by Venus. Taurus is also ruled by Venus. So this is a very Venusian energy. Venus rules our money and our self-worth. So this could be an opportunity to really evaluate your self-worth and how you're making your money, and being more, again, in this, I'm really feeling this stretch to move towards the win-win with this new moon. Chantal is being joined by the dragon. Celeste is being joined by the love card. Xana is being joined by the burden card. And Teresa is being joined by the restriction card. Okay. When I look at Chantal, she represents romance. She represents the resurgence of romance in an existing relationship, and or a new romance coming in. And then I see that with the dragon, power and strength. And you know, with Taurus being Venusian ruled, I don't know if I'm saying that right, Venusian ruled, and being a new moon in Libra, I feel like there could be this really wanting to be in an established relationship for Taurus and in a working relationship. And I want to go back to the idea of, I'm really getting a strong pull to look at food for you right now, because it's the 6th house of health, because this is opportunity for you to not give up everything you love in order to feel empowered and feel strength. I feel like, you know, while Chantal is representing romance, there's something about shifting the way I'm thinking. There's something about shifting from being, Taurus is naturally a fixed sign. So once it gets this idea of something, it wants to, it kind of sticks to that idea. I'll put it that way. I don't want to say they can never change their mind, but there's often times where they tend to stick to what they're thinking. Anyway, I'm getting a little choppy here. I'm saying this because the 6th house rules health. The 6th house also, as a Libra, I feel like there's some sort of relationship with food that I'm looking at here and how that is relating to my health. And rather than having to give up everything, maybe there's this little journey of planting the seeds of looking at how I'm eating, and is that dairy serving me, or is this, because I get this feeling that I have to shift my mind about what I love. I feel like it's a give, it's an all or nothing maybe thing, or has been, because in the angel's advice, it's been a burden for Taurus to feel protected. And I just don't necessarily really want to go to relationships, because I feel like it's a relationship with food, or a relationship with my health, or a relationship with my work dynamic, and how I'm feeling enslaved to it, or a little bit maybe trapped by it. And I want to give myself an opportunity to liberate myself from it. And this is an opportunity to start to shift the way I'm thinking about it. I started this video talking about Libra having a stellium of planets. The sun, the moon, Mercury, and Mars are all in Libra right now. So all of this feels like it's coming into play, because this is in your 6th house. What do I think about? And Mercury naturally rules the 6th house, because I think you've been a little bit reticent to change the way you're viewing things, because you're thinking you're going to have to give up something to the extreme, and it has you worried. It's an all, I feel like you've been going at it from an all or nothing. So it's really more about trying to find that Libra balance within the things that you love. And again, I'm just going to harp on that food idea for you, Taurus. I don't know why. All right, let's go on to our Geminis, where we're going to see this Libra in their 5th house of romance and children and self-expression, hobbies and entertainment, fun and frivolity. What do the angels have to say for Gemini? Now, I want to say your ruling planet, Mercury, is now transiting this house. So you may be thinking a lot about having fun, a lot about wanting to get out in the community and starting to just get back to maybe a normal routine when it comes to fun and being out with your friends. And I say friends because Gemini rules friends. There's Rosetta in the foundational position. We have the angel Azure in the opportunity or the obstacle. We have Teresa in the angel's advice. And then we have Isaiah in the final position. I really think that Gemini may be thinking a lot about romance. You take the dynamic of Libra representing the 5th house and a Libra new moon. We have the dog, which represents love and unconditional love, loyalty, and sincerity joining Rosetta. We have the spider joining Azure in the opportunity and the obstacle. We have Teresa and the communication card in the angel's advice. And then we have Isaiah and the goblin together. Okay, so this is about love, and this is about romance. And in many ways, I think this is about adopting a childlike innocence, Gemini, versus an adult who has gone through a journey of romance that you refer back to when you start contemplating what's happening in the here and now. Being in a Mercury retrograde, communications will be wonky. People can take reversals. Mercury rules Gemini, and it rules Gemini very differently than it rules Virgo. So it's going to rule it in a way that's going to make your mind go back and forth like the twins, contemplating this and contemplating that. And I feel like what Rosetta's asking you to do is to defer to the story where you actually win versus where you're repeating a pattern that you find unpleasant, distasteful. Because Libra is about diplomacy, about harmony, about creating compromise. And I don't think this is about compromise outside of yourself as much as it feels like giving birth to a bigger idea. You know, more or less, if you are in a situation where you are dating somebody or want to start dating, it's starting to give life to the idea that this is going to be a fun thing, that you're going to start to align with people in places that with people that you like and people that have the same thought process or want the same things that you do. Because Azure is saying your desired outcome will happen in the very near future. Have patience and faith and don't try to force it. And oftentimes I see the spider as a relationship card. I always have since I got this deck. I always think when I see the fly, it goes into the web and it doesn't come out, or whatever goes into the web doesn't come out. And there's this circle of life, natural process and relationship between the two. I don't think it's necessarily about feeding and the death of the fly as much as it's about the feeding of the spider. And this is about love. Okay, so I think that what Spirit is saying is it's really an opportunity for Gemini, the sign and the planet that rules communications, to start to think about how much you worry about the past and how much you may contemplate the past in relation to the today and the future, in relation to romance, Libra, new moon, partnerships, straight up love partnerships, the potentials for marriage, what your marriage is like. Because Isaiah says it's time to give birth to new ideas and new situations. And the goblin is really representing where we're edging God out. And that sometimes looks like when things seem to have gone wonky or backwards, and then we assume, oh, it must be about me. I did something wrong. They don't want me. And then there's a whole different story that has absolutely nothing to do with you. And when that is able to be revealed, you'll have a whole different thought. So now I think this is an opportunity for Gemini, rising moon, sun, and stelliums, which would be 3 or more planets inside of the sign of Gemini, to start to really look at how you're processing, how you're thinking. What is the percentage of time you spend in the old story versus giving life to a new story or no story? You know, the experience is what it is. I've done the best I can do. I've showed up my most authentic self. Now this is all out here somewhere, because this is a real opportunity that love may be being presented, but not without that first little hiccup that every love relationship must go through in order to know that it can survive it. All right, let's go on to our Cancers. My little cheat sheet for the houses, so I don't have to worry about my brain. I hope I'm talking loud enough. Sorry, I didn't mean to yell. Cancer, Libra is going to be your 4th house. These are starting with rising signs. And if for some reason you don't know what I'm talking about, you can look at the beginning of the video, and I gave a brief explanation why I do this. Okay, so 4th house, this is going to be a new beginning and cooperation in the house of home and hearth and property. The 4th house represents literally the land with which we live on, the seas with which we travel, lakes, how we nurture. The moon represents the mother, the nurturing aspect. How do we nurture the self in the 4th house and also nurture others? Balance within that. That's very much a Cancer challenge. So if you're a Cancer rising, this new moon in Libra is giving you an opportunity to find balance within the dynamic of nurturing yourself and nurturing others, and finding the wisdom in nurturing self, so that you actually not only allow others to nurture themselves, but you teach them the truth of the mother energy, of the home energy. It's not about dutiful service to others. We find that in the 6th house, not in the 4th house. This is where we make people feel safe for their flaws, is in the 4th house of home. At least we hope we do. So how do you do that for yourself, Cancer? How do you find that Venusian balance, that Libra balance, and that compassion for self as you find yourself a flawed human? And through the nurturing process of that Libra dynamic, feeling love for those flaws and seeing the wisdom of them. So let's see. We have Shanti, the angel of peace. We have Chantal, the angel of romance and the opportunity or the obstacle. We have Rosetta, the angel of nurturing the child energy. And then we have Archangel Michael, who represents not just protection, but courage to make our divine life's purpose, or to move towards our divine life's purpose. Joining Shanti, we have the Trust card. Joining Chantal, we have the King. Joining Rosetta, we have the Frog. And joining Archangel Michael, we have the Focus card. Libra being the natural sign of marriage and partnership, it seems almost a default place to go. And Libra to me represents justice. It represents balance. It represents harmony. It represents things that create the win-win. So as I do this reading today, I'm really more focused on the win-win, the bigger picture, and not the individual partnership contract. Because when I see Shanti, the angel of peace, and I see the Trust card, I see naturally that Cancer is very nurturing. And with this Libra 4th house, there is a double energy of defaulting to the partnership, to compromising, to nurturing others out of balance, in the sense of they're more important than I am. Because Chantal is the angel of romance and I have the King. So if I really thought this was about love of another, I would think it was a partnership, but I think this is about justice and balance, is what the King represents. And self-love is actually the best way to teach our children how to love themselves, and thereby releasing the lineage of the dutiful human that does for others to the extent where we aren't really doing for them out of love, but where it has come into our identity, our role, and then our obligation. Because Archangel Michael is asking Cancer with this new moon in Libra, to really pay attention to your focus and to know that when you trust that you do things for yourself, you're creating peace for everyone around you. It really isn't about being selfish. I'm not talking about like leaving your children at home and going to a bar and drinking all night long. It's really more about the idea of creating a nurturing home environment by demonstrating self-care that then allows you to care for others more effectively, more joyously, more fun, and have them receive it in a way. Sometimes when we care for somebody more than we care for ourselves, they actually reject that caring. They feel it's disingenuous because they feel the obligation to give back what the other person, the Cancer, is giving. So this is an opportunity for the Cancer to have a new idea, to plant the seeds of your own self-care into this new Libra moon, to have compassion for yourself that actually gives a stronger and more influential compassion to those that you love, to those that you nurture, to those that you care for and love as your own family and children in home and hearth. It'll be I think you'll start to see some real shifts within your inner circle 6 months from now. These moons come in various cycles, and the new moon in Libra will always end with a full moon. And I've started to see this pattern where it usually happens the full moon in the opposite sign. So I think it's going to be around April. I didn't really check the calendar. All right, let's go on to our Leos. Hoping I'm talking loud enough. Every once in a while I start to yell, and I apologize, but I've been told my voice is not projecting enough. And it seems to be getting deeper as I age. So Leo, this Libra new moon is going to happen in your third house of communications, meaning what you think, what you speak. This is the traditional Gemini house. So it'll have the Gemini dynamic and the Libra dynamic together, along with this new moon. Mars and Mercury are both transiting that house right now. So really about how you think, how you perceive, how you're perceived by others. Are you being cooperative, at least from your own point of view, maybe from the point of view of others, or planting the seeds of cooperation within your community? And that's how you can truly be the Leo leader. This is for Leo rising, moon, sun, and stelliums. Our first angel is Chantal, the angel of romance. The second is Astera. The third is Shanti. And the final is Sonia. Let's see, since Leo represents romance and we have romance in the foundational position, let's see, Leo. Are we planting the seeds for a new level of romance during the Libra new moon? Maybe people will get engaged. Crazier things have happened. All right, Chantal is being joined by the Wind Fairy. Astera is being joined by the Queen. Shanti is being joined by the Fear card. And Sonia is being joined by the Dog. That's very interesting. We are in a Mercury retrograde. So Mercury representing how we think, what we speak, what we read about, what we teach others through those processes, our emails, our everyday activities, sidewalks, escalators, roadways, teammates, workmates, neighborhoods, all these intricate parts of our everyday lives. And the people we surround ourselves, the people we love, influence those everyday lives. So as I look at this Leo, for Leo, the Libra new moon is making me think that you are reviewing your love life. Whether you're single, whether you're married, whether you're in a relationship, I think you're really starting to think about the dynamics of that relationship, of that dynamic, of that experience, what you want of it. And I think what you're looking for, and I could say that the Queen is about, you know, fertility, a feminine dynamic, but what I think about as I think about the Libran dynamic of give and take. Here we go again. I'm going to just seem to harp on this idea of compassion, harmony, us as humans moving into relationships that create a win-win. Because the Astera says to reach for the stars with your dreams and desires and not to compromise. And this is what I believe that Leo is contemplating right now, thinking about, analyzing, assessing, reviewing. Mercury retrogrades by nature are about reevaluation, review, rest, rejuvenation. And are you receiving in your relationship what you really want? Or are you even the block within? If you're a single person, if you're a single Leo, are you blocking your love life because you're keep reviewing what you're not, or what you don't have, or what isn't working? Because Shanti, the angel of peace, is in the angel's advice. And then there's the fear card. These are two different, very strong energies. And I think part of this is realizing what fear actually has to offer you. It as a way of actually bringing peace. When we have gone through a challenge and we've triumphed over it, we fear it less. It provides a sense of peace. It provides a sense of empowerment, a sense of achievement. So as you contemplate your love life, Leo, as you look at your history and use the Mercury retrograde to see where you've been and where you don't want to go again, you don't need to fear going there again, because you now know that you're going to own it in your own world. You're going to stand as this energy of receiving what it is you want most. And you know, you've been down this fear road before, so you know what it smells like. And now fear has an opportunity to offer you peace. And not only does it have an opportunity to offer you peace, you are being guided by those on the other side, because the dog is about unconditional love, loyalty, and sincerity. And I think that I don't know if any of you watch any of my other videos, but I talk about Leo ruling the zodiac. The fifth house by nature rules fun, entertainment, romance, procreation of children. It's just so many things that are of the more enjoyable experiences of the human nature or the human experience. So if we look at that as, you know, the sun ruling that, and the sun ruling the zodiac, and the sun literally trumping every single planet it comes in contact with, then we understand that the human has been moving in the wrong direction. The human has been moving towards obligation, towards what's expected of them, not what they expect and want for themselves. So, Leo, in relation to your love life, what you want for yourself, what you want in the higher vibration of the love experience. If you're currently in a relationship, this is an opportunity to plant the seeds of a win-win. And if there's some things that you have not communicating with your partner, this is a chance to see and think about, how can I communicate them in a way that we both feel love? We both feel like we can take this to a deeper, more rich level of partnership versus going into some sort of unconscious pattern of what people do in relationships. All right, let's go on to our Virgos, rising, moon, sun, and stelliums. This is going to be in your second house. That's right, second house. Second house is naturally ruled by Taurus. It governs our skills, our voice, skills with our hands. It rules our money. It rules our possessions, and it is Venusian by nature. So you have a double Venusian energy here, having Virgo, having the Libra as the second house. So it's going to be interesting to see. I'm getting this sense of Virgo really appreciating the give and take, because Virgo works so hard. And as a Virgo rising, your perception is to want to be of service to others. And the Libra energy could be where you make your money feeling appreciated in that dynamic. There's other elements going on as well for those of you that know astrology, but I'm kind of going in it from a more emotional place than I am the actual work. Okay, Virgo, second house, Libra new moon. How can you use this new moon to bring up your sense of self-worth by applying your skills into the things that you love? We have Layla in the foundational position, Virgo. We have Sonia in the opportunity or the obstacle. We have Oceana in the angel's advice. And then we have Grace and Antoinette in the final position. One of the things I find challenging for Virgo is in being service to others, Virgos tend to expect perfection from themselves. And I think sometimes they miss the idea that they're also represent the Virgin, new experiences. And with new experiences, there's always the bell curve. There's always trial and error. And so I think sometimes that gets missed and Virgo gets a little tough on themselves. So we may be looking at that when it comes to your skills, when it comes to your ability to make money. You may be frustrated with yourself. And this new moon gives you an opportunity to have compassion for that journey of masterhood. Okay, Layla is being joined by the bear. Sonia is being joined by the cat. Oceana is being joined by the mystery. And Grace and Antoinette is being joined by the water fairy. Okay, so Layla talks about spending time in nature, talking to God and the angels about my intentions, my desires, and what I want. And then I have the Baird. And the Baird talks about music and poetry and expression of the enchantment of storytelling, but it also talks about history. And for Virgo, Libra is your second house, which also represents history and the history we get from our family, the history of our self-esteem, the history of our family lineage and what that journey brings. You know, if you are in a family of heavy drinkers, then you have a lot of that drinking energy within your family history. I say this because I think that for Virgo, this is about applying your skills, about thinking about what you want to do in the way of how you make money and being able to express yourself individually. But now it's about rewriting that story because I think you're spending too much time in your story, not the story that serves you, but the story that pulls you to a place that you don't want to be anymore. Because Spirit is telling you there are 9 lives for you. You've just got to start to give life to those lives and to start to, in some ways, get out of your head, Virgo, and into your emotional body. But you need to make that choice to truly swim through the sea of your brain towards your dreams. And to, regardless of the time of life, whether you're 9 or 90, it makes no never mind. This is now a time to really start to spend that percentage of time focused on what you know is deep inside of you, what you've been begging to birth in the way of your dreams. There's all these, the second house by nature rules the voice and the singing voice. So I'm going to just use this as an example because Libra being Venusian, I would imagine Virgo could have a beautiful voice. And yet being a first house Virgo, you may be super critical of your voice. And now there are all these vessels like this new show called Alter Ego and The Voice and The Masked Singer, even though it's just for celebrities, but this way of being able to express ourselves beyond what our history tells us we're capable of. Because that's what I think this is about. It's about having compassion for what Virgo knows is really the truth of who they are. And they're fighting a history of perfectionism or a history of criticism. And so now it's using that Libra energy of harmony and balance and creating the win-win and having it be okay to be a flawed human. The Libra energy by nature sees a wisdom to balance. And you can't have balance if it's sunny all the time. You can't have balance if things are always negative. So now it's about Virgo finding that and then allowing this new moon to plant the seeds for that. So when we come into the season of Aries, when Libra should have a full moon there, I gotta check the date, then we get to take action on the seeds that you've planted today. All right, let's go on to our Libras. This is in your first house of self. Oops. I'm a little clunky today, I'm going to admit it. Here we go, Libra. Rising moon, sun, and stelliums. Our first angel is Caressa. The second is Isaiah. The third is Mystique. And the final is Rosetta. It's interesting. The minute I pulled Caressa, I felt the energy of children. And I'm wondering if some Libras want to move to the next step of parenthood. See. All right. Joining Caressa is the forgiveness card. Joining Isaiah is the stag. Joining Mystique is the queen. And joining Rosetta is the Grail Knight. All right, my Libras, I want to offer this because not everybody is of childbirthing years. Not everybody wants to have children who is of childbirthing years. So I'm going to put this in two different categories. There is a closing of a chapter that this new moon is ushering in for Libra in how you perceive yourself and what you're capable of. And I believe that this closing of the chapter is bringing a new chapter of happiness that will actually make the old chapter make more sense. And it will almost feel like a blessing, but a challenging blessing. We have Pluto. I spoke of Pluto at the beginning of the video. It is also squaring the Libra energy. I should have mentioned this before, but because it's squaring Libra, rising in the house of self, there could be a metaphoric death in a viewpoint of how you see yourself as you give life to the idea that too much cooperation is actually enabling somebody else, maybe in a lower energy, or it's not considering what you need in the way of self. Because in the ending of this chapter and in the reconciliation, not forgiveness of the old chapter, but the understanding of the old chapter that led to this new chapter, it's about giving birth to new ideas and new situations where you stand in leadership. And Saturn is exalted in Libra. I know that's not really, I didn't talk about that at the beginning of the video, but Libra is a sign of leadership. It's also, you know, people focus in on the partnership, but that partnership also has a lot of leadership involved in it. Because in the angel's advice is the Queen and Mystique. And it's time to keep charging ahead towards what is just and fair to what you want to this new beginning. We've got two energies, Caressa and Isaiah, both saying a new beginning is coming on a Libra new moon in the first house of self. So you have an opportunity to really receive what you want, to think of yourself as fertile in many ways, not just literal childbirth, but also in birthing a part of yourself. Because you may be of a certain age and want to birth a new career. You may want to birth a new hobby. You may want to birth a new dynamic of some kind, because whatever it is, it's going to be something that reaches down to the sacredness of your heart and really speaks to the inner child who knows no boundaries, who believes in magic, who believes all things are possible. And if you are of childbearing years and you have been challenged with having children, or challenged getting pregnant, I want to offer you that the astrological dynamics right now have been such that in the birth chart, they could indicate challenges interruptions and disruptions. So the souls that you may be wanting to invite in for this earthly experience are waiting just a wee bit for that to calm down, or for certain things like Pluto to get out of retrograde. Then we conceive and we have a better dynamic when we're born. So that's what I have to say for my Libras. Let me go on to Scorpio. Okay, Scorpio, this is going to be in the 12th house. Libra in the 12th house is interesting. The 12th house is a very spiritual house. It's the house behind the self. It's what you don't see. It's what you have to dig deep into your intuition. It rules a bit of isolation. It rules hotels. It rules ashrams and retreats, prisons and hospitals, laboratories where research is done, things we do alone. It rules sleep. It rules the ancestors. So this is an opportunity for Scorpio to dig deep, which you do naturally, to unearth an ancestral pattern or an old way of thinking and starting to create a win-win, because you may be inadvertently not allowing yourself to be a priority, Scorpio. And that could be presenting a problem because you're expecting or hoping that the other person will step up and say, I see you. But until you step up and see yourself, that may be a challenge. So our first angel is Layla. The second is Indriel. The third is Yvonne. And the final is Aurora. This is for Scorpio, rising, moon, sun, and stelliums. Layla's being joined by the hawk. Indriel's being joined by the dragon. Yvonne is being joined by the joy card. And Aurora is being joined by the Grail Knight. Okay, so this new moon in Libra that represents marriage and partnership traditionally, that's the first thing everybody thinks of. And that could be very true and something that Scorpio wants. But I also think that this is about really getting clean with what you require in the way to feel valued in a relationship. Because if you're a 12th house Libra, moon especially, you may be feeling like your feelings don't really come into play, that the other party is more important. And I think that's a little bit of the 12th house, a little bit where you can get tripped up, because Layla is talking about your desires and your intentions and really rising above a situation to see if indeed you, Scorpio, are giving enough of a priority to your own needs. Because you may inadvertently not do that, and it's actually creating more of what you don't want, more of feeling invisible, more of feeling like the other person in their life or the other situation, the other partnership, could even be within a business partnership, their needs are more important. And it's now a time to see that as you shine your light, as you give credence to your own needs and wants within relationships, you find more power and more strength. And it isn't because you become overbearing. It's really more because you actually are internally making yourself a priority, because it's time to be vulnerable to your own joy, to your own value, pleasure, the things that, when I think of Scorpio, I do think of Avatar. I see you, not just you in the physical, but the deeper part of you. And this is the part of Scorpio that I think is so rich, but it's also so isolating, because often, and especially with the idea of this Libra ruling your 12th house, you may feel like you're not seen in partnership. You're like, oh God. And this is sort of where you have to step up and say, if that's how this is showing up, it's time for me to see me. Because Aurora is saying you're flying high right now. Don't descend, that you will soon inspire others. And they may initially be threatened, but this is an opportunity. The Grail Knight is about romance. It's also about illusion. So this is what I want to say. If indeed Scorpio has been afraid to themselves assert their needs because they're afraid the object of their affection will run away, then it's time to be brave and really come clean with spirit about what you want. Do you really want these particular characteristics of this feeling within a relationship? Or do I want this person or this experience? And then to get kind of clean about your value within them, because you don't know, Scorpio, that if you actually saw your own value, you may have a smoother road ahead, and you may only be seeing being discarded because you're used to having the house of partnerships be in your 12th house of the, I don't see it. It's behind me. It's alone. It's isolated. It feels isolated. All right. There's really a brighter side of that to Scorpio. There really is a brighter side, because it's not about declaring it to the other party. It's about declaring the even and the balance and the fairness of your own value, and then seeing the ripple effect. As you have the epiphany of your own worth, you're a light worker, you're a beauty, your strength comes through, and it gives you an opportunity to be vulnerable to your own joy, and to actually experience it in the 3D world instead of just over some virtual experience. All right, let's go on to our Sagittarius. Sagittarius rising, moon, sun, and stelliums will have this Libra new moon in their 11th house of networks, hopes, and desires, of social media, humanity. Naturally, the 11th house is ruled by Aquarius, so it rules technology, science, space, innovation, going where no man has gone before. All right, Sagittarius, let's see what Spirit has to say for this Libra new moon. Our first angel is Azure. The second is Rosetta. The third is Archangel Raphael. And the final is Teresa. There's a shadow side to the element of Libra. I know I'm talking to Sagittarius right now, but we're talking about your 11th house. And if your 11th house is about the bigger picture about networks, there's the pitfall potential of being overly accommodating to the group. And if the group is out of balance, which most groups become at some point, nothing stays in balance. That's not part of the human experience. There may be some illumination that's about to be revealed in this new moon. Azure is being joined by the movement card. Rosetta is being joined by the love card. Archangel Raphael is being joined by the partnership card. And Teresa is being joined by the perception card. So I want to say this for my Sagittarius. Sagittarius naturally rules higher educational levels, PhDs, masters. It rules spirituality and religion, and it rules foreign travel, foreign ideas, long distances. It's a very fun sign in some ways, because there's so much exploration attached to it. And I say that because with the 11th house here, I feel as if Sagittarius is going to start to see, as you're planting these seeds in this new moon in the house that is ruling balance and cooperation, the win-win, harmony and peace. You're doing it in the house that rules humanity. So I feel like you're going to start to see some traction. So let's say you are a Sagittarius who does a podcast, or you're a Sagittarius that is putting yourself out on TikTok or in social media. I believe you're going to start to see your desired outcome happen in the very near future, and movement of your influence. And I want to say it this way, because I feel like this is all based on something that you have loved since childhood. So I don't really think it matters the genre. It is the partnership with your own wants and desires and putting it out there on the internet. You know, every expression of creativity has an audience. And oftentimes the artist itself will limit themselves by trying to project what that audience is and their viability within it. This is not what this is about. For Sagittarius, this is about traveling into unknown territory of self-expression within the bigger networks of your life, because it will bring a healing as you may join a social network, you may join a partnership, something you've always wanted to do. It may involve parenting, teaching, guiding, but whatever it is, it's going to ring true to something that you felt since you were a wee one. Because now I think you're going to have an opportunity to really work with the masses on their perception and on how the outside world influences our own perceptions. So this may be the seeds that you're planting, Sagittarius, and unbeknownst to you, you've become a teacher of the masses because you are sharing your own experience, and that experience is so relatable to others that it allows them to start to think in bigger pictures. Sagittarius by nature rules the questions: who am I? Why am I here? What is my purpose? So that's very exciting. And having this Libra new moon in your 11th house of, this idea of technology, of innovation. So grab onto those new platforms, allow yourself the privilege of that expression within them. And I always want to offer it this way. I'm kind of a shoot the video and load it up and whatever it is. As you can see, I'm rather a seasoned professional on the planet. But if for some reason you have trepidation about putting yourself out on the internet, then don't post it until you feel comfortable with it. Give yourself the opportunity to practice finding your voice. All right, let's go on to our Capricorn. This is going to be in your 10th house. Very public house. It's a house of career, the house of your public reputation. It's the house of government authority. All right. Capricorn, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. Okay. Our first angel is Oceana. The second is Fiona. The third is Rochelle. And the final is Isaiah. Capricorn naturally rules the 10th house. So your sense of leadership comes naturally to you. Now we put Libra in there, and it's leadership in balance, leadership in creating the win-win, leadership in the idea of harmony and fairness, rules justice, rules peacemakers. So here we have Capricorn in the sign of peacemakers, standing in the public eye of a new moon. Oceana is being joined by Merlin, that represents justice. Fiona is being joined by the fire fairy. Rochelle is being joined by the Lady of the Lake. And Isaiah is being joined by the dragon. Capricorn gets a little bit of a, everyone always sort of starts off with the Saturnian bummer lines like, oh, your rule limitation, your rule restriction, yeah, la, 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 la. I don't want to go there anymore, because I believe that Saturn has been evolving just like everybody else. And Saturn has been saying, yes, I'm going to require you to work hard. I'm going to ask you to be willing to put in blood, sweat, and tears. And I'm not going to be particularly emotional about it if you whine about it. So the evolved part of Saturn is to pick the lane that's most passionate to you. Libra is ruled by Venus, and Venus rules passion. So I think it's time for Capricorn to be emotional about the journey of your own passions. And it's just and fair for you to stand in this 10th house of leadership, because here's the Fiona saying, now that you've asked God and the angels for help, be open to receiving. And here's the fire fairy about positive energy and creative action. And it's not just creative action, it's creative action that comes from your heart. And most people don't think of Capricorn coming from their heart. They think of them coming from their obligation and their head. But now Capricorn has evolved and has become more brave and more courageous in their truth. And yes, they're still walking through a storm between what they think is expected of them and what they feel from themselves. But this is a beautiful time to give life, new ideas. This is where your true power and leadership lies, not in your stoicism, but in your ability to be flexible in your own shifting, in your own willing to pivot to something that is more authentic to you, that is creating the win-win. This is Libra, to me, 101. I'm a Libra sun, and I believe that one of my biggest life's missions is to assert myself diplomatically to create the win-win and taking no prisoners in doing so. So everybody's going to win or everybody's going to die. No, I'm teasing. So I want to say for Capricorn, starting to see yourself as the baby goat, starting to see yourself as, yes, you do have this tenacious determination, but now you're willing to apply it publicly in your passions and in what creates balance within your heart and your head. And in doing so, you're a very powerful leader. And you're part of the shift that creates the nirvana that this planet was truly meant to be, because it's not meant to be challengeless. It's not meant to be effortless. It's not meant to be a Garden of Eden where we float around all day and then, bleh. No, it's meant to be a series of experiences where we test our own ability to create for the exhilaration of it. If you've ever watched, I watched The Voice, and if you've watched it, you know that the people sit behind, before they go through the door and they look at the big pictures of the stars and they're like, oh my gosh, I'm so scared and excited at the same time. That's the key. It's the fear and the exhilaration that live on both sides of the coin. So Capricorn, allow yourself the privilege of following your heart in little bitty pieces as you give life to this dynamic within this Libran new moon of cooperation, of leadership for yourself. All right, let's go on to Aquarius. Rising moon, sun, and stallions. This is going to be in your 9th house. The 9th house rules traditionally travel. It rules higher ideals. It rules concepts and, who am I? What am I? Why am I here? It rules higher education and religion. All right, let's see where we're going to create balance in the win-win for our Aquariuses. Our first angel is Isaiah. The second is Archangel Raphael. The third is Aurora. And the final is Maya. I love the beauty of the individuality of the Aquarius energy. There are times when Aquarius will feel like an alien. It'll feel a little like, oh, I'm out here by myself and, I'm not really of this earth. And yet your very energy is what propels us into new dynamics, to think in new ways. So it's sort of this double-edged sword, because you're definitely an explorer. And here we have this happening in your 9th house of exploration. All right, Isaiah is being joined by the Queen. Archangel Raphael is being joined by the Wind Fairy. Aurora is being joined by the Fear card. And Maya is being joined by the Horse. I believe that for my Aquariuses, you will start giving life to new ideas about creating a win-win, in the sense of that as you give life to the idea of something versus the way to get there, you will learn more about how the human experiences the signs, the omens, and receives through effortless intention. And when I say effortless, it's more in the sense of, again, kind of being this sort of checking out the lay of the land, learning how to see the signs, when to move forward and when to pull back, because this is a new moon in Libra. Okay, so I want to look at the scales of balance, and I want to know that I'm not just going to sit and wait for things to come to me, but I'm going to be relaxed as I wait for inspiration. Because what I think is being offered for Aquarius is an epiphany in the way that I'm processing things. And that this epiphany may have been a little bit more about fear in the traditional sense of how the human has defined it. And now you're redefining it. This is Aurora saying that you're thinking in a whole different way, which may scare people. And that's what Aquarius does naturally. It rules innovative thought, new technologies. It breaks up the stagnant and brings in new things. And now this fear is an opportunity to truly bring exhilaration. Because I think that as you're allowing for this idea of new thoughts coming to you, traveling to new places, spiritually, religiously, educationally, you may even be an Aquarius who's, going to go study abroad. And you're going to have an experience there, because there's definitely education coming, and education through travel. But the travel is not always moving the physical body, because you can move the physical body anywhere, and it doesn't mean it necessarily absorbs a new experience. So for me, I think that this ninth house Libra new moon for Aquarius is setting the seeds for new ideals, new situations, in new philosophies, new adaptations of the way the human processes things, and then holding space with the highest of vibrations for the rest of the world to catch up as you demonstrate the ease of your intention. You will see evidence of this, I think, coming around springtime in 2022. And Aquarius is going to have a whole bunch of activity going on as Pluto leaves Capricorn in the next year and a half and then moves into Aquarius. And if you're in the United States, you're going to see a lot of transformational dynamics in how we run things. So having that open mind is really helpful as we go through these transits. Let's go on to our final sign, Pisces, rising moon, sun, and stelliums. This is going to be in your 8th house of transformation. The 8th house naturally rules other people's money, and Libra naturally rules cooperation and partnership. So let's see what this has to say. Our first angel is Azure. Second is Archangel Michael. The third is Sonia. And the final is Teresa. So Pisces rules hospitals. Naturally, the 12th house rules hospitals. This is in the 8th house of death and rebirth. And I'm not bringing up any health issues as much as I want to bring the idea that there could be health reform within the hospital system. I'm not making it personal to you because, again, Libra represents fairness and balance in cooperation with others. In a house, you've got Libra in the house of other people's money, other people's resources. And I'm just don't know why I'm getting this feeling of this having to do with a transformation in how I'm feeling in that sense of vulnerability to the unknown. And again, I don't know why I'm going to the experience of death and rebirth. All right, here we go. Azure's being joined. Oh, okay. So you're going to change the way you're thinking. All right, here we go. Azure's being joined by the Wind Fairy. Archangel Michael's being joined by the Wealth card. Sonia is being joined by the Raven, and Teresa's being joined by the Owl. Okay, this absolutely, now I get it. I believe this may have a lot to do with how you process your own physical body. how you want to do things versus how the group is telling you. And while Pisces is normally considered a very cooperative sign, and now we're talking about a new moon in the sign of partnership and cooperation in the house of commingling. And I think Azure is saying your desired outcome will happen in the near future. And I think this is where you're going to step into your own sense of, I have a certain way of thinking. I'm going to figure out what I want for myself. Because right now, when I go to the final position, for Pisces, I got a lot of other people, and I feel like I'm going back and forth with other people giving me their input. So let's say that, you've got people that in your life that feel one way about certain medications, and you have other people that feel the opposite way about medications, remedies, etc. And you find yourself somewhere in the middle. I think what Azure is saying is that your desired outcome for peace and cooperation will come, but not until you are able to, in some ways, remove yourself from their opinions and get back down to what's more authentic to you. Because the wealth card is the harmonious wealth card, and this is the courage to make change. And the change is to trust the 8th house, deeper knowing. That's your team. And here we have the raven, which represents going into the underworld. It's very 8th house. It's very much, the 8th house is really, we talk about other people's money because it rules death. It rules inheritances. Okay. So on a physical level, that may seem frightening, but on an intuitive level, as a Pisces, getting deep into the real motives is going to be more comforting to you for yourself, so that you can arrive to a conclusion that is not alienating you from others, but not having you be dominated by others either. Because when I look at Teresa in the final position, I think other people's input is being thrust upon me, and I'm trying to figure out the wisdom of other people's input. And I feel like Spirit is saying, no, allow your own thoughts, your own heart to come to the conclusion. And maybe even because Pisces rules the house of being by yourself, being alone in the bedroom, being in the ashram, being in the temple, being in the hospital. I feel like maybe you need to take a little bit of time today on this new moon to set this sort of intention about being able to trust a deeper knowing, the intuitive part of yourself, while the rest of the world is telling you that you're vulnerable to something that you may not be quite as vulnerable to as you or other people may want you to think you are. I hope I was clear, because I'm trying not to get tagged. All right, guys, this is the new moon in Libra. Today, October 6th, 2021. My name is Teri Hunter. I'm an angel therapy practitioner, Reiki master, intuitive guide, intuitive astrologer, and empowerment coach. If you'd like to book a private reading with me, my information is below. I'm happy to answer any questions you have, and I'll be back soon with another video, and hopefully you're enjoying these things. Please like, please subscribe, please comment. I always forget to say that. And I say it at the end by the time you've all clicked the bye-bye button. So anyway, I'll see you next time. Have a great day. Have a great new moon. Be gentle with yourself. Peace out.